Hello and welcome to another random code stream. This is number, 8 in working on this issue. I've made a lot of progress on it, run into some issues here and there getting past some things as I'm changing stuff around, but I'm getting close. In the last stream I ran into another issue that I actually had put in as a to-do. It just came up and bit me sooner than I thought it would. So I think I have a way around it. I think. So let me get my music going here. And let's get into it. Before I do that though, I was always wondering, why are my unit tests taking so much time? You know, why is running a source generator and doing a diff taking as much time as it is? And so I looked into it a little bit, just try to think about what could be taking some time. And I looked at this code that gets the .NET 10 reference assemblies because they need to be referenced in the test generator. So this was running every single time I ran a test. And I believe what this is actually doing is going out and going to NuGet to get this package and do the things it needs to do with it, which is not good. So what I did is I turned it into a lazy so that it only runs this once. Now, a lot of these tests are going to fail because I've been changing how code runs, but it's still running the code. The source generators is still emitting the code. It's just what's coming up with is a bunch of errors because it's saying they don't match, which is something I have to go back and address once everything I know is back in working order. But just running these tests now, if I say run, that said it took 4.5 seconds. That is much faster than what I was doing, what I was getting before. So that's actually really, really good. Now I hope again it's not sometimes if I've broken things so badly in Rocks that it won't even generate the code and it will just come up with a bunch of errors. Then that would be an issue. That means it will come back, it will run fast, but there'll be a bunch of errors because it didn't actually generate any code. So that could be a possibility, but I don't think so. I could go back and change this so that it's just getting this every time, and I think we would see the same behavior. But I'm hoping that once I feel like I've made the fix I'm about to do today, hopefully I'll get it done, and I can start getting to updating tests, that this should make it much quicker to run these tests and change them so that it won't take as long to get stuff done. So, in any event, the problem that I ran into is with explicit implementations, and I even had a to-do here saying, how do we disambiguate? So what we do is we get a unique set of these type reference models that I make, because when you're writing a source generator, you should create your own read-only immutable models that don't rely upon symbols or syntax trees or anything in Roslyn. It only has the data that you need. There's lots of goodness around that if you do that. So I get this hash set, but now what I need to do is I need to say, well, what happens if you have two types that have like different namespaces, or you have two types that have the same name but have different numbers of type parameters, something like that. So this is where it starts to get kind of tricky. How do we disambiguate between the two? And I should have a couple tests already written. So like what happens if you have isame T2? What Rocks is ending up doing is creating two of these classes, and they need to have different names. So you know, in the case where maybe they have different type parameters, you could disambiguate, by including just the type parameter names. But if that's not good enough, then you basically have no choice but to use the fully qualified name. Except we can't have colons and dots in our names either, or greater than less than in our names. Those symbols, we can't do that either. So yeah, it starts getting messy, to say the least. God, I love this coffee that I have. My employer, they're based in Detroit, and I'd say about once or twice a year I end up going out there for various things. And there's a coffee shop downtown called Madcap. Oh, their bold coffee is so good. And when I go there, I'll try to buy bags of the beans that I like, and then I'll brew them here. So that's what I got this morning. They're bold. my stream sponsored by Madcap. No, they don't sponsor me. So well, if they give me free beans, I would shill for them. Their stuff is good. Of course, coffee's like what? How much more expensive is coffee these days? It's how much more expensive is everything these days? Keep it on code. Keep it on code, Jason. Okay. So we have to come up with a way to disambiguate a name. And the thing is, even if it ends up looking kind of ugly, as long as it's not going to cause a compilation error, that's what matters. Because the number of times you have to do explicit implementations is not high. It's not rare, but it's not high either. The number of times that you're going to run into conflicts like this, I think, are very, very low. So it shouldn't be something that you see a lot of. Now, maybe you do, but again, unfortunately, when we get to this case, we have to come up with a different names for these things. I guess now that I really think about it, does it really matter what the name is? And the reason I say that is if you go to the property expectations, with the indexers, we're just using, because indexers don't have a name, they have just this. So we have to come up with something that's just like indexer 0, indexer 1. We don't care what the name is. We just say, wait, we don't use this here? Really? Really? We use it here. Oh, because we use the... Sorry, distraction mode. Huh. That is interesting. We don't use it. I gotta spend time. I don't know if Mitch is watching, but Mitch is a helper of rocks, and one of the things he's looked at is eliminating some code. Since I'm doing a big change right now, I told him wait until this is all set, and then you can go through it and see what you can find to remove, because that's probably going to change once I do this. So yeah, stuff like this. Why isn't that used? Why are we not passing that? I guess not. Anyway, for indexers, we don't care. We just use an index. We just use a number. Now we could do that here for the name. The problem is, even down here though, we need this is the property that they're going to see. So if you see explicit for 0, what is that going to help? I guess how do you know which one this one is going to be? I guess what we could do, here's a thought, is we could generate an XML comment here. I don't remember the syntax off the top of my head. So it would be summary. And this would only be in the case where you would have a collision. Like what we would do here is we'd still use just the name of the type, but we'll search to see in the types, do you have a collision? And if you do, what we'll use is an index with a number. What we'll put in the comment here is this property represents an explicit implementation. This property represents the expectations for the explicit implementation of, and then we could put here explicit type fully qualified name. You know, now that I do this, this might not be bad to do for all of the code that's generated. We could say gets the expectations for the explicit implementation of that. And then if you needed to have an index here, so yeah, you don't give me the 4. Damn it. We could say for var I is equal to 0, I is less than explicit types count I plus plus. And we'll say nope. Oh, shoot. We're using a hash set here. We could say to list on it. Because why not? Now we could say var, we'll just call it index. Okay. So what we need to do now is we need to say if explicit types count where the type dot name is equal to the explicit type dot name is greater than 1, and actually we could do this here. We could say the explicit expectation name is if this is equal to 1, because it would have to be at least 1. We'll just do this. Otherwise, what we're going to do is that. And what we're going to put here is index. Actually, no, I don't like that. Because we want to say if it's greater than 1, there. Now there could be some ordering going on, but you know, that's okay. But what this does now is it uniquely qualifies it. And this is only in the case where you end up having a duplication, or you need to disambiguate, which in most cases, like when in the last stream when I ran this, most of the tests ran. I think this only showed up for 2 types out of like 20,000 that we see, or whatever the number is, with the code generation tests. So that shows that this case is going to be rare, but it's legitimate, so we got to handle it. So now we have a way to say, here's the property for, gets the expectations for the explicit implementation of this interface. I like that. And then we can consider, I'm going to put that as a note in my ever-growing to-do list for this. I think yeah, we're addressing this. So yeah, I'll have to figure that out. What I want to do with that. We want to do it before the test because we want to have any coding changes done before we run all the tests and changing them, because as I've discovered, changing. Add XML comments for all generated code to help assist the user. See explicit. And I know that the code, that the regular expression source generator that they added a couple of versions ago did this, where they add a whole bunch of comments that you can see as XML comments when you're in like Rider or Visual Studio or even VS Code. And so if you really want to, you can see what these things are doing. And it's really helpful, actually, if you look at how that works. I'm not a regular expression guru by any means, but what's nice about it is that I can say, hey, for this regular expression that you probably used Copilot or somebody else to write it for you, and you're like, what does this actually mean? You can put that regular expression attribute, whatever it's called, regex generated or something, put the regex in, there's a string, and then when the code's generated, you can hover over the property or whatever, and it'll give you this big explanation of what that regex does. That's really, really nice. And then if you're insanely curious, you can always just dive into the source generated code to see what is it actually generating to implement that regular expression. So I kind of like this. I like this idea of putting in the comments into the generated code, because we can say for the whole expectations, this class contains all of the expectation and mocking infrastructure for this type. The setups gets all of the setup expectations for this type or something like that. And at least that way you can get a little bit more of a hint if you're like, well, what does this do? Maybe that helps a little bit. But this would help in case you do see, well, wait a minute, what's 0? What's 1? What in the world does that help? This might at least help, like even with indexers, we could have the indexers saying, gets the adornments for the following indexer. And then it could show you this and the brackets and everything with the actual real types there, not the argument types, to go, oh, that's what this is doing. I kind of like this. It makes this simple. It doesn't have to force us to put this huge name in the code. And then we can provide this as a hint to the user to say, this is what this is. Now, we think this should work, right? We think this should work. And this is just the house for the things that it's going to put internally with the methods and the properties. So it's just a disambiguator. So we added 2 tests. This one, which we know fails. So we're now going to redo the code. And we just need to do create. Okay, so let's see what it did. Do setups. Oh, yeah, get value and get value too. Right. So here we say we have the same 0. And it gets the explicit implementation of this type. And now it gets... See, that way... oh, it didn't put the name here, right? Okay, that's fine. Okay, we only use that. So we could have string explicit type name. And so then here, what we could do is say explicit type name is equal to I love that the editor picks up that this is not a raw string, and so it changes it to single. That is awesome that it does that. And then actually here, we can just say it's this. And then here, that means we can do this and just pass in explicit type name. And we don't need to worry about the index here. And then we don't need to do that. We don't need to do that because it's done down there. And so we do it there, we do it there, we do it there. Okay, so now we can say explicit type name there. So that would have the index in it as needed. So here, it still fails. Why does it fail? Oh, because we're off somewhere, and I'm not going to fight that. Let's just regenerate it. Okay. That's right, we got to go all the way down. Okay, so what's it generating now? Oh, yeah, we don't want that. We just want this. All right. Yeah. Explicit for that. So let's do that again. I still don't envy all the work it's going to take to update all the tests. But it kind of needs to be done by hand, because if something doesn't work... There we go. Now we got to pass. Okay. So this gets expectations for the explicit implementation of isame1. Nice. Very nice. That handles that case. Okay, and then we had another test down here with duplicate interface names, but they're in different namespaces. So we're implementing the same. They have run. They have to be explicit, but they have different namespaces. That shouldn't matter. We're going to have to regenerate the code to do this. But this should handle it with the same thing that we just saw before that I fixed. Okay, so let's put that code here. Get rid of all the pluses. Still don't know why auto-generated always starts off like over like that. And the make doesn't do that. I don't know why. All right, so we have explicit for isame0, and it says for explicit implementation of 1 isame. Nice. Nice, nice. Very good. Actually, that would be even better. C. Is there a type or is there a cref? Yeah, we could put a cref in there. Why not? And then we do that. Because that should allow you then in the IDE to click on that to go, oh, this interface, if you really want to. But why not? Why not just, instead of just having a name there, put something that gives you a little bit extra context if you need it or want it. I like that. Excuse me. So that would make this now say cref. And this should say 2. And it passes. And since we know the pattern, we can just change it up on this one. Oh, what happens when you... Yeah. Okay. What happens if you want to say cref list of... Yeah. Or if you want to say dictionary of string. Something like that. You have to change the greater than less signs, the angle brackets to curly braces. But that should be easy to do. So here we could say replace. We want this to be that. And then replace maybe not the most idealized code in the world, but that would work. And so then here when we generate this, it would be isame of t, like that. And then this would be isame t, t2. Do we get that right? No, we didn't. I'm wondering though if it's just a off by a character type of thing. Oh, that's right. It's okay because it's not the one. Duh. So I get for copy pasting. Boom. I'm happy for this, but I don't want to get my hopes up too much. Let's commit 394 saying I think I have a work around for explicit implementation with duplicate names. Okay, here's going to be the big check. We're going to come into the code generation test. We're going to go to program. I probably still have this, pointing a test with type to run against mass transit. That's where we found the issue. Let's run this now and see if we still have an issue or not. No, we do not. That's actually good. So now, let's just go hog wild. But I don't even know where that phrase comes from. Where, anybody know? I don't know. We do need to keep the comment on that though. Okay, so this is going to take about 5 minutes to run. But if anything, what the stream has showed is that sometimes you come up with an idea and sometimes you still need to keep working on that idea. One of the things that comes to mind is the .NET team will sometimes do API reviews. And so I think it's on Tuesday and Thursday. They do it live on YouTube. And so you'll see them go over new API recommendations or requests or whatever that people said, hey, we want to add this into .NET. And sometimes they'll be talking for like 30 minutes, an hour, 2 hours even on some of these changes because they're talking about just the names of things. They're talking about, does this kind of fit in with the whole framework guidelines that we currently have? Does this match what people expect to see in .NET? Does this, all performance things, all these things that they debate and discuss because this is going to be used by literally millions of developers. Well, maybe a specific API won't be used by millions of developers, .NET developers, but it will be in a framework that is widely used. And so you want to make sure that if somebody has to use that stuff, that it has a familiarity to it, that it works well, on and on. And I think this is just showing that even though I came up with an idea to get around this, that I came up with, I thought, an even better idea, but it uses an index number that isn't quite expressive. So, hey, wait a minute, we could use an XML comment that at least gives you some better hope to say, oh, this is what this is implementing. And we'll do that all the time, no matter if there is a conflict or not. And then, hey, wait a minute, we could do this on all of the generated code because that might help out a little bit with people using it. So yeah, I kind of, that's the thing that sometimes you're going through and you're coming up with ideas. And when you start building them and using them and there's this feedback iterative process to it that you go, could we make this better? And again, there's a balance. You can't tip the scales over the side of analysis paralysis where you're debating ad nauseum forever every single character, you'll never get done. And yes, there does have to be a balance in, shipping is a feature too. But if you tip the scales too far to we have to ship, then you're not putting in the time necessarily. You're not putting in that time to make code maintainable. The fact is, yes, software is soft. It's supposed to be able to be malleable and flexible. The reality is too, though, that software tends to end up being hard to change, and it's because we don't spend the time making it so that it's not too difficult to change. And I'm not saying it's easy. I'm just saying, I don't think we value that enough as we should. So, there's lots of things we have to balance in life, and trying to come up with what we think is the best thing to do is, in my mind, it never is easy. It's never easy. Well, I mean, there's some things that I end up working on at work or here that I'm like, yeah, this wasn't too hard. This was pretty easy to do. But that might just be because it's a simple bug to fix, but I think in general, solving a problem is, it does take invested time to do. Even if you're using AI or an LLM, it could possibly help in some cases, but it doesn't necessarily make everything completely simple. There still needs to be work put into how do you change this? What's the right way to change it? And so on. Okay, we're getting near the end. We'll see how many errors we have this time. And it doesn't mean that the code's right. It just means it compiles. That's all this does, which is helpful. But it's not the end all. Twilio always takes forever. There's so many types in that one. Hey! No errors. No errors. That's good. That's actually very, very good. That means I think we are now over a hump. We still got work to do, but we're over a hump, I think. So... that's nice. That's really nice. We still got a list of things to do here. What I want to do... so we actually just did this. Okay, we're going to move this up the list because we just fixed this. Wait. What just... why? Oh, okay, sorry, that wasn't what I intended. Okay, so let's put, I think I tried to close this off here. So let's take off all the dones here. I want to spend the rest of the time just going through this small set of tests that we have changed to confirm that our code is doing what we think it should be doing. And so let's just blast through these through the rest of the stream. All right. Generate async. This might already work because I don't think we made any changes that, yeah, that works. course, these will fail again once we start doing some changes to like spacing and whatnot in the code, but that's okay. Okay, this failed. Why'd this fail? Is this a... Oh, it's a code generation thing. Okay, let's take a look at that. Some of these I haven't revisited since I did the setups, and I think this is putting that setup type in between. And so I think some of these just have to be regenerated so that the code matches. Yeah, I'm guessing that's what this was. I can just see the comments here, you know, for, you know, provides all of the expectation, provides all of the necessary, the mocking infrastructure for this type. Contains all of the setups necessary to create expectations for this type. You know, like wording is going to be matter. And this is the thing too. This is only going to be in English. Because one, I only speak English. I know very, 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 very small smatterings of other languages like Spanish and German. But that's like really, really, really small at best. So, you know, and I don't have the team behind me to internationalize some of that stuff. I mean, I guess that could be if somebody really, you know, had a passion around that and wanted to have that in for another language, could do that. But I don't want to say it's low on the list. Like, I don't think it's important. I get the importance of it. I'm only one person. There's only so much I can do. But anyway, so we have the setups. Yeah, so now I think this should work. Yeah, it does. Okay. All right. This will probably need to change anyway, so we might as well do it. Whoops. Okay, that's good. Once I get like this core set of tests where I think they're passing with all the changes that I'm doing, then I can get into the making small changes on implementations. Like adding XML comments will not change the integration tests. You know what I mean? So generate a sync. That probably also needs to, well, maybe not, because it has set up expectations in it. Yeah, that passes. This needs to change because we don't have the setups in it yet. All right, get the real code. Come on. Okay. That works. Whoops. This might work. No, it doesn't. Oh, it's because we're now adding, if we're explicits, we're now adding in the comments. That's right. So that's why that doesn't work. That passes now. And we might as well just change this up because okay. All this busy work where I finally change all the testing code to match will be great to do as like watching a stream. You know what I mean? Just have a stream up on my other screen down here and then just blast through. Okay. This might already work. And it does. I don't think this is set up correctly. Nope. Wait, why didn't it? There it goes. Okay. So now this should be good. And it is. This might already be good. And it is. And these we just did, so... Wait. Where's this one? Oh, did I put them in the wrong... Okay, I should have qualified them to being there up here. Okay. So now these are all done. Let's run this just to make sure it's still running. And it is. And let's do this one. No. No. All right. Cool. That is very, very cool. In the sense of, I think, you know, we've got the code generation tests. They all compile now. The unit tests that we've changed, they all compile now, and it seems to handle the cases that we've run into before. So the only thing is the implementation tests. The integration tests. That's where we're actually using the code gen and seeing what that's like. And that's going to be some change to do. But this is definitely a hurdle to get over. I feel like we've turned the corner finally. And we can start going downhill as we address some of these other things. So what I need to do next is, like where I'm doing this get thing, you can just do this. It's a small thing. It's essentially the same thing. It's a little bit less code. Okay, that's fine. There's spacing in the code. I don't know if you can see like when it's generated, like having this space here. It would be nice just for a cleanliness purpose to have that space removed. I would like to have between all the handlers, like there should be a space there. That would look better. Just from you don't have to look at the code, you know what I mean? But if you are looking at it, it would be nicer to see it cleaned up a little bit. The rest of this is fine. It would be nice to have between each adornments. And then for the make, like it would be nice to have one there. Okay, so we want to clean that up too. We want to add comments as much as we can. Put XML comments everywhere we can because that can help a lot. And then once we get through those things, then I think we can start doing the testing strategy. We've already ran all the code-gen tests. They all pass, but we'll do that again. Then I got to go through and start changing the integration tests. And this, unfortunately, like the unit tests, I don't have to update all of them at once, and I can get them to run at least. The integration tests, unfortunately, the code actually has to be correct everywhere. So that's one of these things I have to go through all the integration tests and change them all at once to run them. But then we do that, and then we go through the unit tests. And then the cleanup part, I think that can be part of the thing that I asked Mitch, or he's taken on to look through the code base and find any dead code that we can remove. So I think that's just going to shift to that issue. And then finally, updating the documentation. All the documentation has to now reflect the new API. So again, these are all like things that aren't, and I don't want to say they're not hard, but they're arguably things to make things prettier and better. But I think we've gotten to the point now where the expectation API stuff is, I think, in a state where it works. And it didn't land exactly where I think people like Mitch and others wanted it to, because we need this extra setups type in between so that we get rid of a whole excuse me, a whole bunch of naming conflicts that ended up showing up when you moved everything onto the expectations type. So that's one level of indirection we still need, but it's simpler. I think, did I show it up here when we ran into it? Yeah, so we actually can't do this. It still needs to be expectations. I still am debating in my head if there's a way to do that. But you can set the property here, and then you can do exactly what you want here. It's the same thing like saying, hey, if you want to get the mock, you do this. If you want to get the setups, you do this. Which is kind of a nice thing. Somebody, I guess, could make... Yeah, but how would you make the reflection code such that it would return the right setups type here? That's what's important. So, but it's close. I mean, still, you end up being able to do this. And I think that's much clearer to say, hey, I am setting up an expectation to call do this, and it's going to be called twice. I am setting up an expectation that the name property is going to be set with this value. Then we get an instance, we can use that, and on we go. I like this. I think it lands reasonably close to what the original idea was, and I think it's definitely better than what you have right now, which is you have to say expectations dot properties dot get setters dot name. And I even forget, does the name here, that's where you said that you'd expect it to be name. I don't even remember. So I don't know. I guess this is also where some people may like that. Some people will go, no, this is much better. I think this is clearer. You know, not a lot of people use this framework, but it's, as I've always said with this work that I do, the intent is not to, you know, mocking is overused in a lot of cases. And I completely agree with that. This is not to get people, although I think this framework has better things about it than MLQ and N substitute. But if you're already having a project that uses that extensively and it works, why change it? There's that too. I would say there's actually a good reason to change it though, because as I mentioned in a video I made a couple months ago, there are things that MLQ and N substitute and other frameworks like that simply will not be able to handle as time goes on because they're being constrained by expression APIs that can't handle things like rough structs, among other things. Rough structs actually is the big one in my opinion. If you can't handle rough structs, you can't handle span. And spans are becoming more and more of a thing. So it's like, well, if you can't handle that, that's a problem. Rox handles that like a champ. No problems whatsoever. So that's where I'm kind of like, if you really are into doing things with mocks, you might have to go, well, maybe these other ones are going to keep hitting limitations that we can't get around. You know, when you're using a source generator, you can generate anything that C# can do, which is nice. And yes, those two frameworks and other ones, when they're using expression APIs, that's stuff that's in .NET, but that's also stuff that needs to reflect in C#. And the team has said, expression APIs are done. They're not going to update them anymore. There was a lot of talk, you know, in recent history about going back and saying, let's keep the expression APIs versions such that they support new C# features. And it was decided, no, that's just too much work. That was the long and short of it. They said, if you really want expressions, you should start looking at using like actual syntax trees from Roslyn. And yeah, I don't think that's going to happen, but it could. But yeah, I think this is a much better approach to do. So I'm happy where this landed. Let me just make sure that I've committed whatever I just did. Updated some test. Pass. All right. Yeah, this lands well. All right, so I don't know if I'm going to do a stream tomorrow. I'll see. I'll see how I feel like. I think the to-do list, like I said, we got an over hump. I need to now just like maybe I'll do some of this stuff on a stream tomorrow and see how far we get. But yeah, I have to get some stuff done for a conference I'm going to in a week or two. That's in Orlando. So what conference is that, you might say? I think I've mentioned it before. It's VS Live. So 16th through the 21st. Yeah, so I do have a couple weeks. I thought it was not this I know it was not this coming week. I thought it might have been the next week. It's the week after. But I don't want to delay it. I want to make sure that I got the time in to do that type of stuff. So, and have I like going to conferences where the presentations I'm doing are set and I just need to do like the day of just a quick run through, refresh to make sure everything is still working. I don't like going to conferences, and I know there are some people that go to conferences are like, yeah, I'm going to be putting my presentations and demos together tonight or tomorrow morning. I'm like, I could not do that. I would feel very, very stressed out to do. I mean, could I do it? Yeah, I think I could do it, but I'd rather not. I'd rather go put the time in before the conference, make sure everything's set, because then I can go to the conference. And when I go to these conferences, I'm still working. So it's not like I can just hang out at conferences and do whatever I want. I still have to put the time in to work on things. But I can at least go there and not have the stress of, is the stuff that I have to present, is it going to work the way I expect it to? So in any event, we're in a good spot with this. So I'm going to end this stream. I want to thank everybody who's been watching either now or in the future. If you haven't subscribed to the channel just yet, please do so. I would really appreciate it. I'm trying to get to 5,000 subscribers as my next goal, so any new subscription helps. So thank you in advance for doing that. If you already have subscribed, I appreciate you for doing that. I will be doing a stream this afternoon for Silksong, and probably doing a couple streams of that tomorrow as well. And I will probably be doing a code stream tomorrow morning. But with that, I am done with this stream. Thank you all for watching. Take care, and I hope to see you in the future.